Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. I am here with Ryan Nelson, the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management. I am Aaron Hoisington myself. I am not the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management, but I do use their services. And I'd be curious to just see how you're doing, Ryan. First off, let's start there.
I'm doing really well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty solid. We're into 2025. Can't believe we made it. I'm very happy to hear that we made it.
Yeah.
25 years. We're, I always like to use this I remember when I first got told this and it blew my mind when I turned 25, somebody's like, well, now you're closer to 30 than you are 20. And I'm just like, whoa, that's pretty mind blowing. And then I always think about it like with years, like we're closer to 2050 at this point than we are to 2000.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whoa, like that just always kind of blows me away a little bit.
Yeah, that is crazy.
when you think about that. But anyway, let's get into today's topic here. We are going to be talking about active versus passive investing. In general, like I feel like the active and passive kind of get thrown around a lot just as far as like, am I an active person? Am I a passive person in general? So I consider you a pretty active guy, Ryan, in general. So I'm curious to see how that translates into investing and if it has any correlation. Doubt it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on active versus passive investing and what it actually is.
Sure. Yeah. So active and passive investing has to do with effectively how the assets are being managed. So active investing is when you're going to have a portfolio manager sort of consciously deciding what to buy, what to hold, what to sell, and how long to hold something for. So that'd be active. Obviously, there's somebody behind the scenes sort of actively making decisions. Mm-hmm. Passive investing is it requires very little human management, right? So it would be be maybe buying a collection of securities and just holding them, right? So that'd be passive management. I would say that largely, this isn't completely true, but where you hear this stuff talked about or discussed most often is in regards to mutual funds versus ETFs or exchange traded funds. And so most mutual funds, this isn't true of all mutual funds, but most mutual funds are actively managed. So that's an example of active investments. Most ETFs, exchange traded funds, are passively invested. And so that'd be the way most people talk about this. So if we were to, some people say, I really want somebody behind the scenes deciding if I should buy more Apple or sell Apple or continue to hold my Apple, or if I should buy the newest AI stock, or if we should have gold in our portfolio. And so I want that active management. Mm-hmm. And then they would want to buy an active basically something like a mutual fund that has an active manager, right? Yep. Now the catch is, if there's some human behind the scenes making a decision, there's costs associated with that, right?
Yep.
So these active managers have an extra cost that now, even if they do outperform a little bit, they have to at least outperform enough to sort of overcome those additional costs associated with the active management, right? And then on the flip side of that is I find people who will say, these active managers, a common term I hear is the active managers can't beat the S&P 500, so don't try.
Right.
I'm just going to basically buy the S&P 500, which is a collection of effectively 500 stocks. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to buy the S&P 500. Now I don't have any, portfolio managers fees that we have to overcome. And so I'd say, hey, if I can't beat the S&P 500, I'll join the S&P 500,
absolutely. Yep.
Buy it. And so it's going to be a lower cost investment strategy. So I'd say passive investing, it's going to be less human interaction, less sort of human management behind the scenes. In general, is going to be more cost effective. Mm-hmm. Active management, there's going to be somebody behind the scenes making decisions on behalf of you. And that is going to be a little bit more expensive.
Gotcha. So, yeah, that's a solid breakdown of that overall. And I guess that it's an interesting point that you bring up with like active and passive and like, oh, cool. Nobody I can't remember the saying or whatever, but it's like we have computers and everything that can kind of just do a lot of this stuff for us. Like, why would I need somebody like actively a human element like investing my money or whatever? Like it could just be I could create an account and kind of just have it, set it and forget it, if you will, there. So I'd like to, I don't know if you have any thoughts on like why it's important to have like a human person behind it, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I don't know that it is or isn't. I think that'd be everybody's own personal decision to make. As far as, so there's lots of different people at different kind of steps in like an investment process, and deciding like which of those you want to hire and which of those you don't is an interesting decision. So like to use Alchemy Wealth Management as an example, I am a financial advisor. I'm not a portfolio manager. And so what that means is this conversation doesn't necessarily like apply to me. These aren't like my fees. My fees are more associated with sitting down with clients, building their financial plans and stuff. But as we're building their financial plans, part of that is to determine how we'd want to invest their assets. Do we want active investing or do we want passive investing? And what I find is I really don't have a dog in that fight. We're going to figure out the risk tolerance of the client, right? We want what's best for the client. It could be passive investing. It could be active investing. That answer might be different 5 years from now, 20 years from now. We don't necessarily know. At this exact point in time, I'd say probably 95% of the assets Alchemy Wealth Management invests in are passive investments. So they're going to be lower cost. We're really focusing on that lower cost. And to your point, just kind of we're managing the investments at a different level. So yeah, I'd say there isn't necessarily one that's better than the other. These different solutions are better for different people. I'd say, again, with my firm, the vast majority of the assets are passive right now. But again, it's not that we have like this... we don't have a dog in that fight.
Right,
Again,
exactly.
5 years from now, we might look back and say, oh, now we're 50% active, 50% passive. Or 5 years from now, we might look back and say, we're 95% active, only 5% passive. Like, we don't care. Like that neither of these are inherently good or inherently bad. They're just different. And right now, we happen to be invested almost entirely in passive investments.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good way to kind of break it down. And I feel like it also kind of works out in just in life in general, like active and passive. Like, I mean, it's better for some people to be active, or more people enjoy that, whatever, find joy in that. To be more people are just passive. You see that with personalities of people and their the way that they live their life too. So it's a good way to break it down and be like, hey, there's not one right or wrong specifically as a broad overarching thing, but just kind of what works best for you, if you will. It's as kind of your personal financial journey. So awesome, Ryan. Well, I appreciate you kind of breaking that down for us, giving us a little insight there. And
absolutely,
we'll go ahead and take a quick pause and be right back on the other side of this.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back, everybody, to this personal section of the Fiscal Physical podcast. Ryan, I have a fun question here for you. I believe all my questions are fun, but this one I'm curious about. What would you say your biggest fear is, or fears are? Obviously, an open-ended question. You don't have to get too deep on it, but I'm curious to see what you what are you afraid of?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question. I don't know that any like specific fears jump out at me. Like it's, like movies don't really do it for me. It's just hard for me to like get immersed enough in the movie. Like it's always like in the back of my mind, I know it's fake and there's so it's like those types of things, like even at like a haunted house, it's like, while things may startle me, of course, it's like hard for those to really scare me, just because it's hard for me to get immersed enough in them where it like starts to feel real. But I mean, I certainly have, I think there's like most people like heights or a certain height or, but also at the same time, I've rock climbed, I've skydived.
Doped. Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Right. But either way, like, so, it's something that is scary. Obviously, if I can jump out of a plane, it's not like a crippling fear.
Right, yeah.
But it is, it's like I wouldn't want to stand in the door of that plane with no parachute and no straps or anything and just like lean out of it. Like, that'd scare me for sure. Knowing that I have a parachute on my back makes me a lot less scared. But one thing, are you familiar with the term trypophobia?
I am not.
I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but I see like images of this on the internet. But it's like those like small clusters of holes all together with like, so trypo, I think it's pronounced trypophobia. It's the aversion to the clusters of holes. So like apparently some people like will see like a honeycomb and they'll like
right. That's immediately my brain to a honeycomb.
Honeycomb doesn't like even make me uncomfortable at all. But like sometimes like holes in people's skin or like you'll see these images of like, I don't know, apparently like 20-ish% of the population is like 1 out of 5 people have this phobia. And I'd say I probably do have it a bit, but it sounds like a weak phobia. Like the definition of the phobia is like having feelings of disgust, fear, anxiety, or discomfort when looking at these images. So, I mean, I'd say, yeah, they kind of make me uncomfortable a little bit. Yeah. So that I think qualifies me for this phobia potentially, but yeah, I think people, I bet it's interesting. I would suspect there's people listening who will be like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah, that's kind of like creepy. And then there'll be other people who are like, what the hell is he talking?
Gotta look this up. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I don't know if I could consider that a fear, but what about yourself? What's your biggest fear?
Yeah, I feel like that you hit on a lot of good points there. I really like, so in the past, I went to Seattle and I went to the Space Needle, and I've been there before, and yeah, Ryan just showed me a picture of the tryptophobia, and that's yes, I think I have that. I'm pretty sure that I do now. Holy cow! But I went to the Space Needle, and have you ever been to the Space Needle before?
I have, not in a long time. Not enough for let's say no.
So they have this like observation deck where you can go outside, and that's really cool. I had no like it was awesome. You see the whole skyline of Seattle. It's beautiful, the sound there and such. And then you go down one floor, and they have like it's rotating. The whole thing is rotating,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a glass floor, and that freaked me out.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was like my buddy just like hopped onto it, and he was like jumping up and down, and like I don't really consider myself having a fear of heights or something like that, because I'm always holding on to something. I'm not like dangling off, but like that was just like I immediately started sweating. Yeah. Like, and he was like, "Oh, come on," and I was like, "Oh." So I ended up walking out there, but I had never been happier to like get back down on the ground. Like after that, I was like, "All right, cool. Like, should we roll?" Like kind of thing. Like,
I think a lot of those just like make sense, right? It's like if you're standing on the edge of a cliff, you should have a little bit of fear. That's like what keeps the humans alive.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, yeah, that seems very reasonable.
But I was just like, man, that was the first time in a long time that I was like, wow, this is like genuinely I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of going through here and falling. So but now that I know that what tryptophobia is, I that's my biggest.
I think
trypophobia. Yeah. Like whatever it was, whatever you just showed me.
Yeah.
Glad this isn't a visual podcast, because that would be that'd be tough. But anyway, appreciate you sharing, Ryan. As always, appreciate the listeners checking us out there on all the different platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you might get your financial, your physical, Education, sure. Yeah, that'll work for us here. But thank you guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. Ryan, anything to play us out with?
Yeah, again, Happy New Year's. I hope everybody's still sticking to their New Year's resolutions. And as always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.